Hello, everybody, and welcome back to You Can't Win. This is Tom here, and I'm joined by Donald as usual. Today, we're just going to do kind of like a year end wrap up and discuss what our plans and goals are for the next year. And I don't know, we'll see how this goes. We're both a little bit under the weather. I threw out my back on Christmas Eve morning, and I've been kind of recovering from that. So I'm not feeling great, and I don't know how long I'll be able to sit here and do this. And I think Donald has a virus or something like that. So, the forces, the evil forces out there trying to stop us from putting out the good content, but we're going to keep fighting and do what we can to entertain the crowds. So
Sure. Yeah, I've had Tom said I got a break for Christmas because on the 24th and the 26th, I felt like chest pain and virus and all this, I don't know, great stuff. And then, on the 25th, I was okay enough to, go hang out with my sister and niece and nephew and stuff. So that was nice, but got a reprieve for a day. But I'm back at it, and I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I think we'll just, chat a bit back and forth and see what happens. And I don't know about, so I guess, even just to start off, what are you looking forward to in 2020 other than, your back not hurting?
well, looking forward to another 4 years of the God Emperor Trump.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, can't wait for America to get great again. I thought that we were gonna have that, but got to keep the good stuff for the end.
I feel like there's a 50-50 chance either way, but are you planning on registering or whatever, or voting or anything? Or
yeah, I'm still not registered for Illinois, so that's probably enough of an obstacle to prevent me from voting.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's like let's say Sanders actually is the candidate. I might, that might push me to actually go and vote.
But you wouldn't register as Democrat to vote in the primary or anything? Because you probably have to do that pretty soon, I think. I don't know. Illinois is probably pretty good with the voting rules, I think, but I don't know. So,
yeah, I mean, maybe I should, but I feel like any the slightest obstacle to that, will prevent me from doing it. So, realistically speaking, it's probably not going to happen. So,
yeah, no, it's funny though because most of the people I talk to, are pretty on board with everything, and phone banking and doing all that kind of stuff. So it's funny to and I'll talk to you about it, and you're like, nah. Well, if it doesn't snow that day, maybe, or something kind of thing. Yeah. But no, I don't know. I'm somewhere in between, I think. I don't know. Yeah. But
well, I don't know what else is really coming up. I can't think of like movies or books or anything that are coming out that
yeah. No. I mean, like,
but
any trips or anything? I guess, a little bit. But are you thinking about?
Yeah, I am going down to Miami the beginning of the year, so that's for a wedding. That'll be nice. I mean, the weather's actually been really nice here, which is really bizarre. It's like 60 degrees out. You can go out in a t-shirt on Christmas.
I saw a few guys. Out on t-shirts in t-shirts today. So
it's the same over there for you.
It's not bad. Yeah, it was a bit silly that they were out in t-shirts, but it was like, you can't blame them for trying, kind of thing. They wanted it to be warmer than it is, but it's not bad. So
there's always those guys like, the other day, when like a couple weeks ago or something, it was like 25, and there's a guy in shorts and a t-shirt walking around. He stops, like he sees his friend coming the other way, and they stop and talk, and he's just like standing around like nothing. I don't really understand that, like how people do that. That does. They got to be cold. I don't know how they're not.
Sure. It makes more sense in Canada because we've got the socialized healthcare. So it's not you just get sick and then get a doctor to fix you and then back on the street kind of thing. So back in shorts. No, but I don't know. 2020, I've got, like, you make the list of things in my, like, for me, I don't know. It feels like for you, you're just gonna same old kind of thing, right? Like, you just kind
of for the most part, there's some kind of like as far as like job's probably gonna stay the same and everything, and I don't know, just keep working on this podcast. I like to see this keep growing. That's definitely something I want to keep putting
Sure.
time and effort into.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I was like looking back and trying to think of what happened in 2019 for me. And number one, I thought overall I can't complain. I had a pretty good year, just plodding along, kind of thing. And then I was like, okay, so I wrote like a few articles, not a lot, just like 4 or 5 or something like that, kind of thing. At the end of the day, didn't really put out a lot of content like that. And I did a few of the Chapo things and a few of the other stuff. And then I was like thinking about other stuff. And then I go, oh wait, I did like a podcast for like 8 months or something like that. I don't know. It's just like I was like, oh yeah, that's not bad. I don't know, something like that. And little things like that. All I don't know.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
actually thinking about how much recorded, like how many hours of us talking are
yeah,
recorded now, and what are we at? Somewhere close to 50 on the regular episodes, and then like 30 or something on the premium. So
something like that. Yeah,
yeah, it's like 80, 90 hours maybe, something like that.
yeah.
That's a lot.
a
A lot of
lot of
talk.
a lot of Don Tent and Tom Tent. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's
So
been fun, you know. I
yeah,
really
it has
enjoyed
been.
it.
Yeah, yeah, it's been good, and I feel like it's good in a way because I actually feel like there's a progression there. Like I think if we were listening to the first ones again, we'd be surprised at how I don't know. Like I just feel like I'm learning things over time and stuff. It's only been like 8 months or so, but like I feel like I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of focusing me on thinking about certain things, especially around like like religion and history and writing and all that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, for one thing that I've kind of proud of myself about doing this is that we've been consistent when we've been, except for this past week, I suppose, have been consistently like getting stuff out there. We
yeah,
set a schedule. It's not, twice a week. It's not given the fact that like I'm working and you have your stuff going on, like it's not like we're just doing this full time. So
yeah,
it's a pretty big commitment, and we've pretty much been keeping to it. So that's felt good. I'm happy about that. I want to keep seeing that through. I Once we hit like a certain milestone, I forget what it was. The next one in my mind was like to keep pushing through for like a full year. So I guess that would be
yeah.
like next March, and like
Hmm.
just no interruptions as much as possible. So we're
Yeah.
almost there in the home stretch now.
That's something also that I think is it worked well. The two of us together because if I had just if I was like doing a Bill Burr style, like just talking to the mic for 4 hours myself, kind of thing or whatever.
Hmm.
I wouldn't have been able to do that for twice a week for what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't have ended up doing it basically. And so it is, that's a good teamwork thing, I think. So yeah, it worked out so
Yeah,
far.
I
Yeah.
think it would have been the same for me. I mean, I would have found a reason to stop or whatever,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I just would have run out of things to do. I think it helps to have like a partnership kind of going on because
Sure.
the other person can kind of bring ideas and guests and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
and it just makes it easier to come up with ideas and things. So
Yeah, and I think that's yeah. So next year I'm gonna try to probably rope in more Catholic people, more maybe like Canadians or something like that. I don't know. We've got a few of them, I guess, but like yeah, like we'll try to expand in areas that we haven't really talked about as much. And yeah, although it's funny because all the guests that have talked a bit about either like I guess you would say like Islamic hate stuff, whatever, like the
yeah.
like when we talked about the Islamic State and the Middle East and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I find it fascinating, so that's been good too. I think that we can. Yeah,
It's been interesting for me too. I enjoy talking about that stuff, and I mean, obviously, but it's just I think people enjoy like seems like to me at least that people do enjoy like seeing that kind of content where it's I don't know, just a kind of a different. You don't see that everywhere, so it's
yeah,
a little bit different than a lot of other stuff.
sure,
But yeah, I mean, I guess one big thing that I want to keep up with in the next year is the consistency that I've been able to keep up with the podcast. I want to start applying that to other things. So
sure, yeah,
with my back hurting here, it is a little bit of a wake up call, and I need to kind of get back on. I don't know, staying fit and stuff. So I want
yeah.
to kind of exercise and I don't know, just make sure my back is strong. I actually don't know why I threw out my back. I didn't
Okay,
do anything particularly
sure.
strenuous or whatever, but I was standing around in the post office the day before, and it was a little bit of a long line. I was there for like 20, 30 minutes or something, and it just started to hurt pretty badly. And I
Yeah.
don't think it was like the standing itself, but something was going on, and like it shouldn't hurt that much just to stand. So
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's like a posture thing or something like that.
I don't know. Yeah.
But I figure if I kind of work on my core strength and do all that kind of Joe Rogan stuff, then I'll be okay.
Yeah. For a few years, my back was hurting a lot every day, like just really bad. And it turned out that I mean, I solved it in a bad way. Basically, I said it turned out it was because I was walking around so much and like overweight kind of stuff. You know, like
Mhm.
it just like the alignments and all that kind of stuff. It's like something's out of place, whatever. And yeah, I was walking around so much and just sitting up and stuff all day because I was out of the house for like 12 hours plus for grad school and all that kind of thing, right? So now because I've just been mostly at home and just a bit around and stuff, I've been a lot more sedentary, and it hasn't hurt almost at all. It actually feels really good comparatively. So, but that's kind of funny because it's like that's not a sustainable kind of thing. Eventually, you're gonna
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
have to. But I don't know. Yeah, but I mean, the gym here. It's funny because the gym. I was going to the YMCA off and on, and it costs like $75 a month, and I feel like that is like including tax and stuff. And it's hard for me to justify that to myself. Like, you know what I mean? It's like if I was using it,
Mhm.
but anyway, I mean, that's an obvious thing that everyone says, but it would be good for me to figure out something there to
Well, it's
just
also
even
one of
like,
those
yeah,
things like you can use the fact that you're paying for it to
yeah,
motivate
sure.
yourself to go.
Yeah. But there's something that I've got to, over time, kind of, that's something I have to work on too. Otherwise, it's one of those things where I mean, really, really lucky in some respects that that hasn't led to health problems, kind of thing, and in other ways, kind of thing, right? Like, anyways, it's one of those things where you just over time, it's not going to get better than if you don't work at it, kind of thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So yeah, from someone that has had back problems because of that stuff, I do encourage you to get it control under at this point, kind of thing. Yeah. So
Yeah, I was sort
yeah.
of wondering if it was something similar, like an overweight type thing, because I've heard that does affect your posture sometimes, and then that will affect your back and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I've put on weight in
No, 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 but
recently. I
yeah,
think I've
yeah,
actually lost a little bit of
sure.
weight, if anything. I've stayed pretty much the same, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
I just mean,
who
like,
knows?
general fitness, making sure that you're exercising and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you've been doing that still lately or not, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, not so much, and I think that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Um,
The other thing that I want to do in the upcoming year, this is kind of like a New Year's resolution type thing, is to read more. I've been reading a lot more the past like 2 months or so.
yeah.
I mean, this year I think I've only read 3 books. So
Mhm,
I reread Gravity's Rainbow. I'm almost done rereading The Recognitions, and that's been very cool in for a lot of different reasons that I've talked about. But and then I read a David Markson novel called Reader's Block, and
mhm,
that wasn't great, but I do like David Markson. I thought the other book of his that I've read called Wittgenstein's Mistress was a lot better, so
mhm.
I'd recommend that to anybody who's kind of like you got to be into the style a little bit. Like it's very postmodern, to use that term.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I did enjoy that, and I've been really like I downloaded a whole bunch of books, and I've been kind of like reading the first like 10 pages of this, 10 pages of that, and just bouncing around and stuff. So I'm gonna try to develop like a pretty steady habit of some kind. I used to read like for an hour or so before going to sleep, and I think that I'm gonna try to get back on something like that instead of spending too much time, you know, social media and video
Yeah,
games and all that kind of stuff. Like I get just
sure.
as much enjoyment from reading, and I think that's a lot better to be doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, yeah. I mean, it's funny because, whenever I started reading a few books about, like, theology and stuff recently. It's funny because when I'm reading that, it's just a completely different experience of reading than, like, just the flow of posts that online kinda stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's, like, not even I don't know. Like I'll read something that seems kind of smart online, and then I read it like a book. I don't know. It's like it's it's something that I really want to emphasize next year. Is yeah, trying to read more academic kind of stuff or fiction and stuff. Not I don't know. Yeah, like that like the 100,000 posts tweet or whatever. But yeah, like that. I don't want to. I don't know. I was also thinking that like I do want to learn more about just like intellectual history and stuff in general, and just commit to learning more about that as a thing. And I don't know, like trying to get more structured my own way about some of that stuff, and maybe bring some of it to the show in different ways and stuff. So some of the books that we talk about and that, because mostly, I mean, really for the last 8 months or so, when we were, or like I guess as long as we've been doing the premiums, a lot of them have been just classic things that I used to read years ago and stuff. And it'd be
Mhm.
neat to do some, discussions about things that I read more recently and stuff that are more about more immediate kind of things and stuff. I think that'd be fun to
Yeah,
kind
I
of get
agree, and
into it.
I
Yeah.
kinda wanna do the same thing, like,
Yeah.
talk about things that I've recently read or,
Yeah.
new ideas instead of sort of it's fun to do that kind of retrospective, like, "How do I feel about this now?" sort of stuff, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's good to do the other thing too, so.
And we also, I mean, it's one of those things where I do know a fair number of authors on Twitter, and so that might be something that I can kind of figure out a way to rope some of them into talking about their books on the show and stuff. That might be fun too. So we'll see. We'll see if it fits and stuff. But yeah, so
Yeah, maybe we can branch out a little bit with our guests instead of, sticking so strictly just to people we know and have, like, a
yeah,
long-standing rapport with and everything. Maybe it'll
sure,
be a little bit
yeah,
more of that kinda thing.
and we'll see. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's lots of things that I don't know. I might also. I'm thinking about trying to like enrolling in a driver's course again or something. And
Mhm.
so what I've been doing is when I'm in a car now as a passenger, I start to think through what the driver's doing
Yeah, you
and
got a
what,
little toy, steering wheel you kinda,
basically, yeah,
like
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's funny too. There was this years ago, not years ago, that I mean, not too long ago, like 4 years ago, maybe. It feels like forever now, but just 4 years ago, I was in this course with a professor at York University, and he was an interesting guy. Like I'll just, maybe I'll give the spiel about it. Is that he basically taught like almost like a hybrid of Marx and Keynes kind of thing. And he seemed to really, his attitude really, he seemed to just be disgusted at everything in the world kind of thing. Like he was very, very negative.
Mhm.
And to a degree that I was like, okay, like calm down, bro, kind of thing. It was just like I was like, this is too much kind of thing. But anyway, he was going on and on about like ISIS and stuff, like just in gruesome detail, and like we're just and all the other students were just sitting there being like, what's going on or
Is this
something.
the guy that used to make really, like, inappropriate comments all the
Yeah,
time? Yeah, okay,
yeah.
I remember you telling me about
And he
him.
told the same stories like in detail, like 4 or 5 times in a row and stuff. Just like anyways, just about yeah.
We
And
should have him on the show.
sure,
Sounds like
yeah.
a good fit.
But it was actually funny because he was it was one of those things where he seemed like he just thought everything was like just terrible. And he was also one of those people that which I actually really like is that he's one of those people that like actually does the reading kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't believe what someone says based on what someone else says kind of thing. Like he just so anyways, he
Mhm,
had his own kind of like weird kind of thoughts about like he taught the way that he taught Marx was like he took us through the whole journey from like Aristotle and Plato and all that through it everything through the thing. Anyways, he was saying about like he was explaining the movement of virtues and stuff in Aristotle in like really really like detail, like really really fine grained detail. And the thing that I thought was funny, not to denigrate the other students, but you could just tell the other students didn't care like at all kind of thing. They were just like, this does not matter to my life in any way. That this like this fine grain Aristotle lesson. But for me, I was like, I'm getting something out of this. Like I wouldn't do this on my own. You know what I mean? Like, and
yeah.
it's useful for me. And he was explaining like habitus and this idea that training at something so that you bring it into like your being basically,
Oh yeah, right.
you know,
Okay. I
and
knew it. I
like
knew that term, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he went into like so much detail about it that I understood it. I got it, like I really understood it at a deep enough level that I was like, oh, that's how driving works. Basically, it's like it like planted the seed in my head that I had to like think about for a while, and then eventually I was like, oh yeah, like all, and it was a very stupid, simple point, but it was just like, oh yeah, you have to like do it and then you know how to do it. It's like, you know what I mean? Like you can't, like for me, I want to like read about it and then be able to be like, oh, I'll just figure out how to drive from like, looking at books, and then I'll think through the problems of driving, and then I'll be able to get in the car and I'll be ready right away, kind of thing, or something, so that I
Mhm.
won't get in a crash or anything. So it won't be dangerous or something. And it's not that like that at all. You just kind of have to wing it at some level and then figure it out, kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, once I kind of got that under control, like I was like, okay, eventually I might be able to do this thing. So I thought that was kind of a funny that like Aristotle might help me drive or something. So I don't know, but
Yeah.
and then the other thing that was funny is that I went to lessons previously, before that, like a few months before that even, and I had like tried it and it didn't really pan out that well. So I had no, maybe like 2 seconds or something like that of driving experience before that, but no real driving experience whatsoever. And I got dropped off downtown in Coburg, like nearby, and there was this. So the driver was there, like the driver instructor got in, and then he's like, okay, and then so he just had me drive around the downtown of this small town, kind of thing, and like all the streets and that. And at the time I thought that was like psycho because I had never driven before, and there's like cars all around me and stuff, and
Mhm.
I had no idea what was going on, so I was just kind of like laughing and getting confused, and he was like trying to make me do different things, and I had no idea what was going on. And I thought that was like, I don't know, I thought that was like what you did normally, like, and then anyway, so I was talking to someone like a few months ago, and she was like, "Oh, no, he should not have done that. Like he should not have." They're like, "You probably should have like gone off onto some sort of side street and just figure
Yeah,
it
I
out."
think
So
that's the normal thing, like a empty parking lot or
yeah, yeah.
yeah, some middle of nowhere kind of road.
So I think I'm gonna, because the thing is that where I live is just like a rural area, so it's psycho to not be able to go places, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it would be so, and I mean, and the thing is, with everything going on, I'm in a financial position now where I can. So that's actually another. Anyways, so the fun thing is looking into like how much cars cost and all that, and learning things that I might maybe should have learned when I was 18 and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm sort of in the similar position regarding not having much driving experience. Like I learned how to drive pretty late. Like I think I was like 22 or something like that. And it was just, I grew up overseas and everything, so it like wasn't
yeah,
practical for me to be driving. And then uh, when I moved here, just didn't have a car, so just never really learned how to drive. So I like technically learned, passed my driver's test, and then just never drove after that because I still wasn't something that I had like structured my life around at all. I was always using public transportation. It just didn't make sense to get a car just because I knew how to drive. So yeah, I feel like I don't like it's been
yeah, yeah,
years since that experience. So yeah, maybe I should refresh that just in case like emergency situation or something like that.
yeah,
Although
yeah,
like I feel like driving around Chicago is pretty like I don't know, that's pretty advanced from like going from
yeah,
death to
sure.
these maniacs.
Yeah, and it's theoretically I would like to be able to drive to Montreal or something like that too, and that's a few hours away, but like it again, it's the same kind of thing, like the notoriously terrible drivers there
Oh
and
yeah.
bad streets and stuff and everything. So yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's just something you hear, but that's what I've heard. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
it is one of those things that if you feel like everywhere kind of talks about their drivers that way, but yeah. I mean, if you are able to get a handle on that, then places that are better are going to be, that much easier. So
Sure.
that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah, and that would be, because I can't afford the crazy rents right now in Toronto are just like nuts. But if I could drive to like the train station and get into Toronto, then that would be cool. So that would be a great improvement in my life. So yeah. So that's a 2020 goal. That's like to start working on that soon, even because it'd be good if I have to plow through the snow a bit and stuff and work on that pretty quickly, kind of thing, instead of just trying to put it off.
Hmm.
I don't know. And then writing more, obviously, and writing differently things like writing for serious publications and stuff. And, like not joke articles, and that would be kind of cool. I don't know. Work on a book.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, and, and the pod. And I don't know, stuff like that. I feel like I'm in a good position now. I can just, plod along one foot in front of the other and just see which, thing. But though the other thing that is kind of related to that is that I do want to travel a bit more if I can, because it's I just got to get out there a bit more and just kind of visit people and stuff, and I think that's healthy. It's not, what I mean, like I am one of those people, like I think you're like this too in some ways, that like if I've got like a pattern that is kind of working for me for a bit, I could probably just keep doing it forever, kind of thing. Like it's not,
Yeah, I'm
unless
definitely
there's
like
some
that.
yeah, unless there's some reason why I have to intervene to change things. And I don't know, I think that, yeah, I think it's good to, I think you just, I mean, it's different for being you because we have the pod and stuff, so we talk a fair bit like this, but I think it is a bit different when you're in person too. So I think it'd be nice to meet some of the people that I know online and stuff and have nice conversations and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to you visiting in the next little while. Whenever we figure out that would be a good time. But
sure.
that'll be fun. Maybe we
Yeah.
can post some pictures up on Patreon or something.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's funny because I already in my mind start like, start deferring things. I'm like, oh, I'd save money if I did that a few months later or something. You know what I mean? Like you start to quickly push things off and stuff, and I kind of have to just, pull the trigger and, you know, figure it out quickly. Because otherwise I just won't do it. So whatever. But it's a
Yeah,
positive thing, so it's not like
I think I need to start thinking about some things the same way. One thing that I've had in kind of the back of my mind is paying off my student loans.
yeah.
I don't have a huge amount left. It's like somewhere around 7 grand.
Yeah.
So it's not like I could just pay it off like no problem right now or something, but it's
Sure.
also not at all an impossible task.
Yeah.
I was gonna try to do that this year, and then I ended up deciding to pay taxes instead. So
Yeah.
that that kind of ate into that money.
Sure.
But now I'm kind of all caught up on that stuff
Yeah.
and still doing okay with the money and everything. So that's a possibility. I'm thinking that I at least want to get half of that down, and
Yeah.
if possible, maybe whittle it down, just as much as I can, basically. Because that would be nice to just get that out of my hair.
Sure. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing because I've got about the same order of debt as you, kind of thing, left. So the way that it works for mine is that, the interest rate's not too bad. It's 5% basically a year. And the payment is about $88 a month, basically. But I was thinking if I can put my money from writing and stuff towards that, and or whatever,
Hmm.
and maybe some from the podcast and that too, like put it towards getting that down, it would be good for later if I want to move out and like to, you know, not have that $88 a month payment, kind of there. So we'll see. That's the same
Yeah.
kind of thing. So, anyways, that's the goal for me for 2020 as well, is to get that as down as possible if I can. Probably have some costs related to other goals, but whatever. So
Yeah, you never know what comes up.
sure.
So it kind of seems like 2020 is going to be the year of steady progress.
Sure.
Nothing too crazy, but
Yeah.
just kind of keep on improving all over the place.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All
I think
right.
that's more realistic too. I don't know, hopefully. So then well, I don't know what our ambitious goals would be. I don't know what that would be for us, but like I don't know. We're not
Oh,
really
I
we're
don't
not
know.
really like get jobs at McKinsey kind of people, but like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what would like a super ambitious. I don't know, like write a novel or something like that would be a
I
pretty
think
ambitious goal.
I don't even know what the ambitious part of it. I have like things that I could see as like a goal that's divorced from the means to get there. Like I could say something like, "It'd be nice if I could one day afford to buy a house," or something like that kind of thing,
Oh
or
well,
something, you
yeah,
know.
but you
But
know,
that's a bit different than a specific thing I might achieve or something. I don't know. So
yeah,
yeah,
could run for president of Bolivia.
yep. So
That
that
could
might,
work.
yeah.
All right. Well, should we take a look at the mailbag? See what people have been
Sure.
sending us. Okay. There's a few recent ones that I wanted to get to with you. I thought they were kind of funny. Let's see. All right. So the traditional Muslim Tom is race trader submission. Thank you for that one.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so I hereby offer to replace Donald on the pod. I will play the role of a simpering Dimmy. I will allow Tom to make as many Slav and Canadian jokes as he wants, and I will also agree with and laugh at all of Tom's racism and anti-Semitism. And most importantly, I will do it for 1/4 of whatever you're giving Donald in Patreon earnings.
And this was anonymous.
Yes, it was anonymous, so
Okay. Yeah,
I
I think.
can't really accept that as an anonymous one, but you should DM me and we'll talk about it.
Hmm, I don't know. I feel like there has to be some sort of challenge for both of us to, you know, like they have to challenge me in some way. Like I'd have to be able to fight them in a ring or something, you know.
Yeah.
And like let's be honest, they would almost certainly win, whoever this is. But it would still be, you know, I feel like there's some process that has to be involved to make it legitimate or something.
You guys should do like
Yeah.
a roast battle or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It'll be like the rap battles in 8 Mile or something, you know, like
Yeah, exactly. Um, okay, I've been awakened on coke for the last 3 days, fought a knife fight with a friend of mine against 4 hobos, and one drinking the most expensive alcohol possible because I've just inherited a bunch of money. Now I'm home on my bed going to sleep it all off, but just quickly dropping by to say I love you guys. Hope you great success with your podcast. Okay, I don't believe any of that.
well, I don't know.
Please,
Yeah,
please try to be truthful in your submissions. This is a very serious issue. It's not, you know,
I think
not for
that
jokes.
Patreon has an option where you don't have to. It's like above the monthly amount, you're also allowed to just donate. So if they did get an inheritance, I think that we get like a share of that, right? Like we get like 10% or something
Yeah,
from.
jizya. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure
Yeah.
of the rulings on that, but I feel like we're elders in some way, so we should
Yeah.
get something.
You owe us a little bit. So
Sure,
if that is in fact honest, like that's a true thing, then yeah, you gotta hit up the Patreon there.
sure.
Okay. Do you know much about any historical evidence for the existence of Jesus or Muhammad? Well, I know there's like that kind of there's like a debate about that around Jesus, but that has always struck me as a little bit silly. Like I think it's pretty clear that there was one. I
Yeah,
know it's not really in question as far as Muhammad goes. Some people have sort of tried to migrate that rhetorical kind of debate into the questioning Muhammad's existence, but there's so much historical evidence that just demonstrates clearly like people who are not Muslim, not interested in that kind of, there's no polemical reason that they would want to promote the idea that he
sure.
existed if he didn't, and then they're talking about him and stuff like that, that it's pretty solidly proven. I don't know the whole deal with like the Jesus stuff, but
Yeah.
uh I-
So
yeah.
yeah, the way that I mean, I make fun of this a lot with the documentaries because they're actually, I don't know if there are. I mean, there must be something. There must be like they must have been mostly done in the 80s or 70s or something. There must be good Christian documentaries out there, but most of them are pretty bad, and most of them are also like the ones that come out for most kind of major, like PBS or BBC and all that kind of stuff. The way that they work is that it's trying to like debunk things, like
Yeah.
that's just like it's not like here's an interesting, like why isn't there like an interesting documentary series on, like, I don't know, maybe I just don't know about them and maybe they don't do well so they don't go anywhere or anything, but on like different saints or religious scholars or something like that kind of stuff, I think that would be, I don't know. I think most of those have to be books. They're not
The Vatican
they,
should make
yeah.
stuff like that.
There, it's funny. There are things like that. They're out there. I know what, like there are specifically religious ones that come out from different, like there's a Salt and Light is a television channel that has stuff like that, and there's EWTN and all, like there are things like that, but
Okay.
uh I think that the production values, I haven't seen them, so I shouldn't really say, but I think the production values are not as good as like a in a different way from the, you know, a lot of it is just yeah, it's not like, I don't know, like frontline quality or something like that kind of thing. But but I mean the problem with the, there are a lot of things where there's one kind of series on Jesus where it's basically there's like a group of scholars that was called like the Jesus Seminar. I'm not sure if you heard of them at all, but like
No.
their whole thing was basically that we should only really speak about Jesus as if we know a few of his sayings, kind of thing. Like they looked at like the historical evidence to narrow down the number of sayings that he had, and they turned him into kind of like a buddy Jesus kind of guy, right? Like where it's like,
Okay.
like there's you only have, so they made like a list of like sayings that they said that could be attributed to him, and they kind of made look at him as like a Jewish, like wise man kind of thing,
Hmm.
and they it was kind of like the high end of a trend to, I mean, in some ways it's sympathetic for Muslims, I would say, because they strip away a lot of the King of Kings kind of stuff, like the all of the different types of political implications and all the religious implications of, like, there is a tradition where people kind of look at that stuff and say that it was completely invented afterwards, right? Like
Yeah. Right.
yeah, and then that it became, all this stuff about the Son of God, and that was just shoehorned into it afterwards and stuff, and like that's anyway. So that, I think that is probably where the debate is more vibrant than the actual existence kind of thing, because the actual existence is not as much. I don't think it's in question for as much, but there are a lot of debates about what Jesus's intention of his ministry was or something. So
Right.
like
And
that's the, yeah.
there's, from what I understand, not as much like documentation around that as there is around Muhammad, where it was pretty
Yeah.
much from the outset understood that like we gotta document this, so it's painstakingly done
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
hadiths, like
Sure. Yeah.
that's where all the stuff around like grow your beard and all that kind of that's why that stuff exists, because people were like anything he says you write it down.
Yeah.
So
So a lot of the equivalent literature historically probably would developed decades after the crucifixion. So it's like that's kind of the problem there, is that it's almost like, there is a sense that people bring to it that say, okay, they needed to get their story straight, and then, like it's a lot different than, you know, day-to-day reporting kind of thing, right? Like it's like you, because then you can kind of impose a narrative on, theoretically, right? Like you can say that, yeah,
yeah.
like it, and it's also, there's a controversy around how, like, each gospel was probably historically, like, developed from like a common set of gospels, right? Like they think that that's the, like, from Mark or something, like, I don't know, they call it Q and all those things like that. That whole controversy about that's like a whole other debate
Hmm.
about, like, it's related though, but yeah, it's like this idea that, a lot of the initial reporting was probably, a common set of reports that were then turned into different stories, kind of thing, right? Like, so that's the big controversy, I think. So that, to me, that's a completely different controversy than the more, theological kind of side of it. I don't know. Like that's part of it, but it's like, what I mean? It's not like there is a tendency now to, especially see it online. I honestly just have to ignore almost all of that, like when it comes to people who, like, tweet at me about stuff like this kind of thing, because there is a tendency in, I think, especially North American culture, to people have seen one documentary about these things, so they dismiss things really easily. I don't know. That's something that's really started to bother me more this year, is people being dismissive about stuff, which is funny because a lot of my cottage industry is like being dismissive about things in a funny way or something. But yeah,
Right.
so yeah,
Yeah, it's one of those things where you hear kind of what you're willing to hear, you hear what you
yeah,
want to hear, and then you're satisfied. It works exactly the same way that people who are looking up like anti-immigrant
Yeah.
news stories or whatever kind of stuff like that. Oh, the media is promoting the gay agenda. You see
Yeah.
something like that, and now it's just true, and yeah,
Yeah.
it works exactly the same way.
Sure.
I just wanted to say, like, there's a there's a I don't know exactly how prevalent this is among Muslims generally, but you kind of see it sometimes from people who are like doing like debates and kind of like publicly representing Muslims, especially like in an interfaith sort of context, who point to the fact that like, oh well, the hadith is so well documented and blah 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 blah, as if like that the issues you were talking about like a tradition kind of developing after the fact, and that's really where the debate gets serious. Like that's where you actually want to investigate and figure things out and that kind of thing. Muslims kind of like to imagine that, well, we don't have those problems because we have
Yeah.
the hadith literature, but in certain ways we don't have the same issues that Christians would have because there is more documentation, but that doesn't mean that all that documentation is valid. So,
Yeah. Sure.
you have different problems because of how much content there is around it, and a lot of it is contradictory in certain ways. And there's a whole like the whole school of like hadith studies and stuff is all based on trying to figure out what's like an authentic hadith and stuff, and that's been
Sure.
going on. It's like a ongoing thing forever. I mean, they've pretty
Yeah.
much figured out a core kind of text about like these are the hadiths that we can very soundly say are authentic, and that this is what we'll base things like the Sharia on and all that kind of stuff. But you don't want to just leave it at that. You want to kind of keep looking at it and reviewing that with new historical evidence as it comes up, and people do that and stuff. And
Yeah.
um, generally, what comes out of that is that we've pretty much been on sound, you know, we sound footing for over the years. So,
Yeah.
uh, but it's still not so easy to just say like, oh, we got it written down, so that's that. Like, no,
Sure.
you have to constantly uh, review that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, maybe even another sort of analogous problem is, and this is something that mattered a lot more in some respects in the sort of wake of Jesus, but it's still something that's central to like to the faith, is that you also had this tradition of prophets from before Jesus, right? Like the
Hmm.
Jewish tradition kind of thing, and how that integrates into like how the law integrates into the new faith, kind of, or like the faith, like how that works. That's a whole related sort of problem with it's similar to the hadith in that way, because you've got this textual tradition that then like there's it's very very easy to come down on one side or the other on it really quickly, right? Like you can kind of say, well, these rules that we had before don't matter in any way because we've got this new law. But you can also then say, well, no, because you know God didn't want just to trash the old law or something like that. It's not like it made sense back then, so if there's like a gap in our understanding, then we should probably lean on that instead and stuff, right? Obviously, but like, so that's a whole interesting kind of thing too, because that's, I find, like most of the moral debates that ends up happening, that's where people try to end up going quickly, like they try to go to the 10 commandments and kind of stuff, and all that, leaning on that kind of thing. And that was obviously more important pretty soon after Jesus, but it was also, I don't know, it just keeps coming up and stuff. I think that's a that's another thing where it's like the historical tradition is hard to kind of nail down, I think. I don't know. So yeah.
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 Okay, my back is starting to act up, so we'll just do a few more real quick here.
Okay, sure.
So this is a comment here. Can you guys stop podcasting for a while, please? Take like a hiatus or something. Worst of all, I'm a Patreon subscriber, so these episodes are backing up 2 per week, and I'm drowning here. I have like 8 or so to get through, and then you can start recording again. Nope, time waits for no man. Time and tide, right? So,
Well,
yeah, you got to make the use of your holiday break if you have one, and get through those things and catch
yeah.
up.
Yeah. This is important. I think you do have a duty to listen to us. I don't
Yeah,
know. I think
moral
that's
obligation.
sure. Yeah, I think regularity is important. You can if you listen to us for 2 hours a week and then go about your business. I think that's important. So
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just even listening the one time is kind of that's like bare minimum. I would be surprised if most people only listen to an episode the one time and don't
sure.
listen to
Yeah.
it 2 or 3 times. Maybe with a group of people, maybe on the
Yeah.
street corner, on
Well,
a
yeah.
PA system.
The study clubs. Yeah. The Tom and Don study clubs that have
Yeah,
sprung up all across the world. Yeah.
not sleeper cells.
Yeah.
Definitely not sleeper cells. Okay, next one here. More often, I'm finding myself wishing I had never gotten into politics at all. Do either of you share that sentiment? I can see where he's coming from. Definitely. I think probably me more so than you. I don't think you kind of have the same sort of like I don't know relationship with politics where you kind of just think it's all perverts and losers and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't regret getting into it because I think it was very instructive, and I would not want to have that be like a gap in my understanding of the world and everything.
Hmm.
I don't know exactly where this person is coming from, like what it is about politics that they are regretting or whatever. But I would say like if you feel like you're too invested in it or something, and it's not really you're not finding it productive or useful or something, you can kind of like get through to the other side and be
Sure.
you'll have learned something, and it's not wasted time or effort.
Yeah. And the other thing I think is important is that people try to put expectations on you around politics, like stuff like you're not a real socialist if dot 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 and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And there is a certain moment you have to kind of bring yourself to where you realize that a lot of that stuff just completely goes away if you don't pay attention to it. Like just evaporates. It's not even like a lot of the political stuff is like it seems so important at the time, and then if you kind of take a step back you'll go, "Oh, that was not as big a deal as I thought," or something like that. And I think that's even important to do because there is a superhero thing element to it where people get into where they think that they have to solve the problems, and there's like 7 billion people in the world, so I think that's an important thing to kind of realize that it's not really up to you at some extent. It's more living your life in the best way you can than some sort of heroic quest or something. So yeah,
Yeah, I think having a religious perspective really helps to support that sort of healthy thinking because you're not worried about what some random other person thinks or
yeah,
whatever. Like you're concerned primarily with like God's view of you,
yeah,
and that is it's such a it encompasses your entire life and everything. It's not just like did you support this movement enough? Did you do this? Did you
yeah,
like those things might be important if you determine them to be like an important thing that you think God is wanting from you, then yeah, then that's what you should be doing. But it's not the only thing, which is what people who are really into politics that's going to be the thing that they care about the most. So
yeah.
if that's what you're basing um, your moral judgments on, then that's
Yeah,
going to be kind of skewed that way.
and it's also not even sustainable because a lot of the people that you see that are older that you might not like as much, the people that are kind of involved in politics but don't really seem to care about the stuff anymore. They're making a lot of concessions and all that kind of stuff. A lot of those people, it's just completely become a game to them, so they don't, and like a way of making money and stuff. So it's not, even if you, it's kind of a paradox that if you are hyper committed eventually you probably won't be even productive towards the ends that you wanted to in the first place kind of thing, right? So I don't know, I think for a lot of people at least that's what ends up happening is it becomes easier to get the good job from it than it is to actually kind of slog in the posting mines about it or something. So yeah.
Yeah. This next question kind of is related. I wonder if both of you guys being religious and into your respective faith means that you're inured to the salvific fervor some people get invested in politics and elections, etc. Like if you already have a framework for salvation, you don't need a savior who will just do MMT or whatever. Also, Tom, I'd love to hear you talk about women and men once you get into it. Maybe you could do a bonus where you explain the plot to Don and he can just go, "Oh, geez," and right. So that last one, he's talking about a book, "Women and Men" by Joe McElroy, which is like I think I tweeted about it the other day that I was going to get into McElroy instead of Gaddis because "Women and Men" is longer than Recognitions, and Gaddis is too mainstream now, so I gotta move on to like the next tier of pretentious literature and get with
Mhm.
McElroy. So yeah, I don't know. I took a look at that book. It seems much more difficult to read than Gaddis is actually. So,
Yeah.
but it seemed really interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I'll give it a shot. Maybe that'll be like my big book of the year to get through in
Mhm.
2020, and we'll do an episode on it or something.
Yeah.
Um, but for the first part of the question, I sometimes think about things like this, and I think there is something to that. Basically along the lines of what we were just saying, but I don't want to go too far with it. I don't think that it's like like there's definitely people who mix the same sort of what did he call it here, salvific fervor into religion in exactly the same kind of like unhealthy or silly ways that you see with politics, and
Yeah.
to me it's this, it doesn't matter at that point. It really is, it's less about the actual, is it politics or is it religion. It's more like, are you, I don't know, it's a like a more fundamental thing, like whether you're living like a righteous life kind of a thing, and
Yeah.
someone might do that through politics, they might do that through religion, they might do both or neither, or you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
there's something more basic to it than the actual like cultural content.
Um, that movie, The Two Popes that came out the other day, that on Netflix, it kind of touches on this stuff a lot, kind of in a clumsy way a lot of the time, but it just, I guess that's what they have to do, for a big movie kind of thing. But like,
Mm,
because Pope Benedict in it is shown very, very clearly as, this person was trying to defend dogma at a very, try to like simplify the whole question kind of thing, saying, okay, we have to stick by the faith, because if we don't stick by the faith, then, we just become a NGO that can kind of feed into people's current beliefs, but not actually hold the truth up high.
right,
And
right,
that was kind of his whole deal, really, from a lot of the later part of his life, was just this whole thing about, we need to hold the line kind of thing. And so the whole movie is kind of like a thing about how he comes to understand that he's not really the person to do that anymore, and that
mm,
that was not really a good thing. Because anyways, it's kind of interesting in that way, because it's in the same kind of thing of, it's funny because it's like, it's a very, very similar thinking. Like, he's like, oh, I don't want to be political, I don't want to be, liberal, and kind of just push all these forms and stuff just to fit some political quest that people are having about trying to, you know, fit the world in some way or whatever. I need to focus on the truth of religion and my all this kind of stuff. And then, but by doing that, he ended up paradoxically becoming, a relic in those kind of ways, like not like in a negative way, like it just kind of like a, just not being able to handle the day to day things that people are dealing with, like poverty, abuse in the church and all that kind of stuff. It it became about dogma instead of just handling things that are in front of you. So I think
right.
that's important too. But for a narrative's sake, they kind of make it a little too neat like that, because if you actually read things that he was writing at the time and stuff, it was all about poverty and all that kind of thing, and but I don't know. It's just it is a good point that, yeah, if you, there are so many people in the church that just are like, have like far right political beliefs or something, and justify that by kind of looking at mainstream or left politics and kind of saying, oh, look at all those freaks kind of thing, so
Right.
no, no, no. So yeah.
Yeah. Would you recommend that? Did you think it was a good movie?
So my kind of 1 minute take on that is that I thought most of the movie was like 3 stars, kind of like The Big Short kind of thing, like it was like, what I mean? Like, it was like, it was kind of the news, like a Remember the News movie kind of thing.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like, like, remember this happened, remember that happened, or,
Yeah.
and they like, even the stuff like around abuse, there's like, they talk about it for like really a few minutes kind of thing or something, like a few seconds here and there. They have moments where it kind of touches on it, or they've got like a whole thing about a lot of it is like the history of Pope Francis, kind of like his life and stuff, and so it's got stuff like that. But a lot of that is kind of it's a bit cheesy, and a lot of it is just kind of isn't the Vatican beautiful kind of stuff and all that kind of thing. But the moments where it's them just together, and Anthony Hopkins plays Pope Benedict, and just he does so well at some moments and stuff. Like there's so many things in it where it's like, oh man, I'm so glad I saw that kind of thing. Like
Hmm,
just I think
cool.
those parts were I gave it 4 stars because it was like those parts are 5 stars. Like I think those parts are worth it. But I don't know. So
Well, that's about as good as you can probably
sure,
expect from something like that, I guess.
yeah,
Really
yeah,
cool. Yeah, that's something I want to watch. I want to see that, and I want to see. I think it's called First Reformed
yeah.
or something like that. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet,
Oh,
and
I thought you had seen it. Has Agile Tablet seen that or?
yeah, she saw it,
Yeah, okay,
and
yeah, yeah,
she was telling me, "Oh, you're gonna love that movie. You should
yeah.
definitely watch it." And then people have been telling me like once a month, I get someone telling me,
Oh,
"Oh,
yeah,
watch
yeah,
that." So I guess
yeah,
it's exactly my thing or something. So
yeah.
I just haven't found a good way to watch that yet. I
You
think
know,
it's
it's
at the
fun. Yeah.
library actually.
Oh,
Now that
really? Yeah. Do you know what's funny is that my contrarian brain is already in die gear with it because everyone's saying it's good. So I haven't seen it, but I just get whenever I see like a frame of it on Twitter or something, I just get annoyed. Like I just it's not it's a I want to see it. Like I like mentally, I'm like I want to see that. Like intellectually, I'm like this would be
yeah.
probably a good movie if I saw it. And then I also know it's in a different uh aspect ratio. It's like 4:3, whatever.
Oh,
It's like
really?
it's written in like I mean, it's made in like TV mode kind of thing, and
Those damn prots. Yeah.
so even little things like that just make me go, yeah, see that. But yeah, so I just it's I don't know, it's silly, but I feel like that's a standard kind of thing for me. I don't know. Although this year I did see it averaged out to like one movie a week that I saw kind of thing.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I think that the reason, but the thing is that if you look at the list of them, I would say maybe about half of them are like okay movies kind of thing, like good ones or stuff that are worth watching. And then the other half are like me watching like Shazam and stuff. I don't know, like just like trash that I saw. Like I don't know, and just because we've got like the movie theater near me is 3 screens, so it only has like one kids movie, one adult oriented kind of movie, and then one superhero movie, and that's all they'll have every week. So yeah, I don't know. That's but I mean, I should watch more on my TV now. Got like a few months ago, we got somewhat better internet, so that'll be good. So yeah.
So yeah, let's wrap it up here.
Okay,
I need to go lie down. My
okay, sure.
starting to really hurt now. So
Yeah,
thanks for listening, guys.
yeah.
You can send us more questions at You Can't Win Pod, and you can if you join our Patreon, you'll get a second episode every week. You'll get access to our Discord where you can chat with us in our community. And yeah, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys. Bye.